chin down, perfect. The Mannequin is currently streaming on Tubi. It was written and directed by John Berardo, who worked on a previous horror film called Initiation, and the centers around a young lady named Liana, known as Lee to her friends, who is played by Isabella Gomez, that is bound and determined to figure out what happened to her sister Sophia, played by Gabriela Rivera, a year prior. She met an unfortunate end. They didn't basically part on the best terms, and now Liana is basically just riddled with grief. She has a couple friends, Nadine and Hazel, who are going to get her through this. And they also have to get her through dealing with a vengeful spirit that is targeting all three for reasons that become clear, actually pretty early on, but become clear as the film goes on. As the film goes on, as the film goes on, the mannequin doo-doo. So this isn't like Mannequin or Mannequin on the Move. If you remember those two films, I'm sorry. I am so goddamn sorry. There was a mannequin in this movie, obviously. If there wasn't a mannequin in a movie called The Mannequin, then I don't know what the point of The Mannequin would be, because there's a mannequin on the goddamn cover, and we see a mannequin, and now I've said mannequin so many goddamn times it's lost all meaning. So, this is part grief-stricken psychological horror as well as some standard horror, and there's some promise shown by John Berardo as far as being a filmmaker. Also, he plays the building manager of basically pretty much the only setting in this movie, if we're being perfectly honest. There's outside of I think two other, location shoots, it's mostly just in this one building, which isn't bad. You can have some nice little, bits of creativity in this, and John Berardo actually does show that with a nice black and white opening, and also a few neat little tricks, and taking this story that really doesn't have a ton of meat on it, but he gets the most out of it, at least for a while. I will say my main issue with this movie, besides a few character motivations that seem to go from here to here, is also the fact that the third act really just stumbles and doesn't fall into a pit, but I don't feel matches what was built early on. Great music choices, though. I did like the soundtrack. I thought that the needle drops were nice, and John Berardo does show potential as a filmmaker. Isabella isn't bad as the lead. I really did like Gabriella, though, as Sophia. Put her in more movies, please. As for everybody else, the guy playing Peter, he was fine. He wasn't really given too much to do until later on. That's an ex of Lee's. And we do get a little more backstory on how all this stuff came to pass. So overall, not a great movie, but shows promise, and I look forward to seeing what else Mr. Berardo does in the future. It's on Tubi if you want to check it out. So 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So the black and white opening basically starts with a guy named Jack, played by a guy named Jack Sochet. I guess they didn't trust Jack to remember any other name. And he ends up killing a woman named Ruth. Ruth, I farted. Kills her, decapitates her. Nice slow use of blood splatter, the red blood splatter with the black and white, filming. That was nice. Nice and creative. Actually shows some good cinematography tricks there. And then does a chin down, perfect, because her head's cut off and all that. And then we see, I do once again have to say about Gabriella, I thought she was very nice in this. I thought both her and Isabella did good. There's potential for both of them to go further in horror or other projects should they want to. I thought Gabriella was a standout, though. I thought she showed a lot more personality. And look forward to seeing other projects with her. That's just me. That's just me. Doesn't hurt she was fetching. Sorry, just have to say that. But, basically, the building manager, played by the writer-director, he is showing him around the flat. Sophia wants to get her fashion stuff going. And her and Liana are going to go off to Milan. Also, there's this weird ballet or ballerina or ballroom dancer, Victorian-esque, dress wearing, woman that it's this doll figurine thing that factors in a little bit later. This kind of an attachment between both sisters. And basically, Liana blows off work to be there for one of her friends' engagements. She ends up actually getting fired from her job for this. And the sisters argue before this, and then basically the mannequin, it's alive, it's alive. And somebody had told her to get her shit together. And yeah, then Gabriella gets killed. Now she makes it about 25 minutes into the movie, and I did like the neat little trick. She turns her head, sees the ghost, and the eyes just start to, pop a little bit, like they're getting clouded over, like she's getting possessed. That was a nice little trick. And Leona finds her. She's all bloody, and then we go to 1 year later. Nadine is living it up, living it up, living it up. Hazel is not a sister, so it's not all for you. Anybody that gets that, boy, jeez, that's a deep cut for, music references. Leona decides to set up shop there. Her and Peter are broken up, by the way. Peter had kind of broken up with her and then wanted to get back together with her sometime later after she agreed. Oh, yes, and also Peter is into paranormal investigation. I'm sure that won't factor into the finish later on. It does. And since she's been gone a year, she wasn't able to be there for Nadine's wedding. She neglected her friends. And yeah, the mannequin's there. The mannequin that was affectionately named by Sophia Alice Baldwin for some reason. And then the term Italian boob massage is brought around. I volunteer to help Monica Bellucci with that. That being said, the character arcs, they kind of just go to where they're arguing like crazy. Like Leona's hearing stuff, Hazel starts hearing stuff. Nadine isn't necessarily hearing all that much, but this ghost basically starts targeting them. And it's all centered around this mannequin. Hazel ends up kind of trying to cut off her head, stab herself in the neck. Again, good music choices. I just want to note some nice needle drops here, like the songs in the beginning. And songs, basically sprinkled throughout. I thought that was nice. And yeah, after some blood drops keep falling on her head, it turns out that this ghost really wants her dead. And there are some women that are ghosts around here, and you find out why they are haunting this particular abode. And after essentially trying to take her own life because she was possessed, now Hazel is fine and drinking again, but it could be unresolved trauma. No, it's probably having to do with the ghost. But then Nadine suddenly snaps at Leona saying, you have a drinking problem. I'm going to pour this wine down the sink. And then the ghost gets Nadine. And the ghost is getting Nadine right after John said he will check the cameras. Funny how he was so nice to keep all that stuff and help Leona set the stuff up. Almost like he's planning this. He is, by the way. He is. Just want to say it. Since we're in the spoiler section, I can say that. So, we get Nadine cutting her leg. And then she tries to reach in the garbage disposal and ends up losing her ring finger. They take the ring up, but they put her index finger where her ring finger is. I don't think that's how that works. How is she going to explain this to her husband? I don't think she ever gets a chance to do that. So then they bring Peter in, and he's going to do paranormal investigation stuff, which he has an EKG thing or whatever. Now I got PKE meter. How's that for Ghostbusters references? But he first is going over all the stuff and gives the backstory about Jack, played by Jack again, by the way. 1923 is a mannequin factory. 1950s, things turned more sinister. You had Ruth that was killed, got her head cut off in 64. There was Mindy. She lost her arms, and then another one lost her legs. Gee, I wonder what the whole point of this was. Could it have been they were going to go for a torso? Johnny Long Torso, the man who comes in pieces? The DNA basically got, or nailed him, and Jack ended up basically taking his own life. And Nadine doesn't believe this, but Hazel says ignore her, she just lost a finger. So the idea is they have to go back and they basically have to break this link because they're all marked. And that makes sense that they're all marked, but this is where I understand what the film was going for, but this is where it got goofy, and not goofy in a fun way, goofy and like, oh, really? That's what we're doing? We're actually kind of building things, well, we're just going to go with this. So, the mannequin basically needs to be destroyed, but first they have to do some kind of ritual with holy water. And that won't work, but then a salt purification thing. And then rub blood on the mannequin. And then basically get it to where the thing's going to be chopped up. And he does that while the three ghost ladies are wandering around. And it turns out, oh my god, there are body parts in this mannequin. Which, yeah, that's pretty obvious. I think we all guessed that. And then, Liana gets possessed and basically commences to chopping Peter up, including chopping his hand off. But then the friends, mess with the little doll figure that Sophia and her had. That broke the spell. They run off with Peter, seemingly to attach his hand. And then we see the building manager. It turns out it's actually Jack Bernard III. So he is clearly either the son or I'm guessing he's probably the grandson. But he's doing that, he's just typing all this because the guy can't be more than like in his 30s. So you're just thinking about if this is in modern times, his grandfather clearly was the killer and this kind of stuff, and it got passed down, and oh man, he's carrying on the family legacy. And then shows somebody else that he's showing the apartment to, or the loft area, or whatever the fuck it's supposed to be. The thing is, the mannequin showed genuine promise, and there is potential here, and I don't think it's bad. I feel bad giving it a C+, because I wanted to give it a higher grade, but there were just things that stopped me from doing that. But I encourage you guys to check this out. I don't think it's bad. A Possessed Mannequin arc might have been, funnier and cooler, but, it was what it was, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. Plus, it didn't hurt. There were two beautiful women as sisters in this. Isabella and particularly Gabriella. That's my opinion. I'm sorry. I'm sticking to it. Can't help it. I just have to state my opinion. Wish nothing but the best for everybody involved in this. So C+, agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rentlin, and until we revisit the Mannequin Factory once again, happy trails to you.